Welcome back to part 2 of creating nice animation and motion design tracked along a real wall. Now in the last video we cleaned up the wall in a non-destructive manner, and in this video we're going to focus on the ground. We're going to extract and key out the grass so that we can use on its own layer above our graphics to be able to sit them in comfortably. So let's get on. So we want to use as much of the original backplate as we can to make things cleaner. So we're going to do this in layers. We're going to do one where we keep as much of the bottom as we can, the ground plane, and then we're going to do another where we key out just the edging of the grass to patch over the top. And what we're going to go for is something like this. If I go back to my original tutorial, as you can see, if I scrub through, everything's cut out. So we've got the edging and we've got the bottom, and this is done in 2 layers. So let me just turn off the top one. First of all, we've got this very angular straight mask, just getting as much out of the footage as we can, and that goes all the way along, okay? And then if I turn on the other layer, turn this one off, you can see we've just got the edging. Now the reason why we don't just key out the whole of the grass is because the grass, it's not a proper green screen, it's patchy. So we do as best as we can, and then we just patch that over and use as much of the original backplate as we can. Okay, so now let me go back to the main tutorial and let's start masking out these layers. First of all, let's close everything down. So I'm going to select one layer. I'm going to hit Control A to select all, and then the U key to close everything down. I'm also going to close down the camera. Don't need to see the keyframes. And let's hide these tracking points. So let's select the original footage, go up to our 3D camera tracker, just down to render track points, and turn that off. And you'll notice that they're still on even though I've turned it off. That's because we've got the effect selected. As soon as you click anywhere, they disappear. So even if I select up here, I click here, then they disappear. So now they're not showing, but whenever you select the effect, they will show just to show you where they are. Okay, so now let's mask out the first layer. Let's do the grass. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my middle mouse and I'm just going to move this up. You can move this off the screen wherever you want, or you can zoom out, whatever's easiest for you. I'm trying to fit everything on one screen for you. So let's go back to the beginning. Now, my shot isn't going to start from here. I'm definitely going to trim it off probably, somewhere about here where I start taking the first steps. I don't need all of it, but just for clarity and getting everything correct, we're going to do the mask right from frame 0 basically. So let's select our footage. That's this one here, and I'm going to duplicate it. So Control D to duplicate it, and I'm going to hit return, and let's just name this something like ground main, something like that, or grass, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm going to solo out this layer. So now we're just seeing this layer. And now what we want to do is start masking everything out. So I'm going to go up to my Bezier pen tool. Now if you click once and click again, you'll get straight edges. Okay. Now if I just undo that, and if you click and drag, it's like using Adobe Illustrator or something, you'll get curve edges. Okay, it's just basics of Bezier handle tools. So you're going to want to use a mixture of both. So I'm going to start off the screen here. I'm going to start something like here up to here, and this time I'm going to click and drag because I know the edge isn't straight, and I want to get the best out of it as possible. We might need to add some more keyframes, so I'm going to go for something like this. I'm going to add another keyframe down here, middle mouse drag. I'm going to go all the way down to here. I want that one straight, so I'm just going to undo that and click and click. There you go, and we've created our mask. Now what we want to do is we want to keyframe this. So let's open up the mask, let's hit the M key, and then hit the little stopwatch here to create a keyframe. And now we just want to sort of move our way along. Now you notice that we can't see what we're doing very well when we do this. So to make our lives easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back the original footage again, and now we can see both. Okay, so now this makes it easier for us to set our keyframes. So you want to set as few as possible, but just however many you need. So let's just maybe scrub somewhere along here where there's quite a lot of change. I'm going to hit the V key to go back to our tool, and I'm going to hold the Shift key just to select this key Bezier point here. I'm going to shift drag here, and as you can see, I'm just moving my handles around now, and I want to get as much of the ground in as possible. So I'm moving this over here, something like this, and you can see we created an extra point here, which comes in handy because now we need it over here, and we can add more in afterwards if you want. And now when we scrub the timeline, you can see it animates along with us, and we're probably going to need to add some extra ones in. You can see this one now goes over So we need to adjust this, we need to bring this down. So it's better to start off with the big movements and then go and do your in-betweens afterwards, okay? Again, I'm going to bring this down. Let's check in between here. Again, the camera drops. It's a very shaky camera. It was all handheld. I kind of did it on purpose because I wanted to sort of, you know, camera track everything and just test everything. Let's just move this along. So that's better. Let's get something here. That works okay in between there and there. Let's move right along to something like here now where things start to change. I'm going to shift drag my keyframe here. Again, obviously you can spend more time on this, and it's non-destructible. It's you know, you can keep editing this. Let's go in between where it drops quite a lot. You can see this. Now you don't have to do one point at a time. I can actually select all of these points here and I can move them together. Okay, whichever way you want to work. So I'm just going to move this along here. I'm going to try and do this really quickly for you now as we move through. In here where it drops. So now you can even just say double click the whole mask and just drop it down if you want. I'm going to sometimes you have to select the path to be able to get your deselect the whole thing again. Let's just go up to here. Again, I'm trying to do this as quick as possible for you, and then here it changes quite a lot here. This is when we get to the camera rotation at the end where we're more face on for the wall. Let's do this, and you can drag and change the you know, the Bezier handles here. This is why I did sort of curve ones here. Oops, sorry, that sort of, sometimes you do get a bit of a lag. Something like that. To here, and now we're on the home straight. We just need as much as we can here. I'm going to move this over. Again, feel free to speed up this section of the video if you want, but I like to show you all the details if we can, in case you get stuck along the way. Let's move this down here. And then it goes out. So over here we do need to make some adjustments as well. Here. I'm using a graphics tablet as well, not just a mouse. It's a lot easier for me, especially when drawing Bezier handles. Okay, and that seems to do it. So now let's just unsolo this bit. So we've just got the mask at the bottom. There you go. So it's quite quick and easy to do. Now we want to add a feather. So let's hit your layer that you created, hit the F key for feather, or you can just open up the mask options and it will be there. Just click and drag. We don't want anything too big, something like that will work. It's like 120, something like that. There we go. So now we've got as much of the footage as we want to use, and we can drag this up the layer stack over the walls. Let's just unhide this for now, and now we're going to drag this above all the walls, and you can see it pops into place. Okay, there you go. So our wall is starting to go behind this area, and now we need to just sort out the feathering here. So as you can see, I might need to add another keyframe here. This is when you might need to sort of adjust everything. So you can hit your layer, hit the U key to bring up any keyframes. Okay, so we might need to adjust a keyframe here or add something else in here maybe. So this one comes down a little bit. So always adjusting, polishing as we go. There you go. That's the main layer done, and now we can do our edging layer, which we're going to use with a different technique. So to be able to key out the edging of the grass, we're going to use a technique called chroma keying, and it's the same principle they use on green screen and blue screens in VFX and movies. So we can't just key out the grass because we want to keep in the grass, and also it's quite patchy. So we're going to do this in two layers, and we're going to use one as a luma mat over the other. So let me show you how. So let's scroll back to the beginning, and now let's create some new layers from our original footage. So let's select our footage, duplicate it, Control D, drag it up to the top again, and this time we're just going to hit enter, and we're going to call this grass edge, something like that. So this is, let's just solo this out for now, so we've got just that layer again. Now what we want to do is we want to be able to have another layer and then use it as a matte over the top. So let's duplicate this layer, Control D, and I'm going to call this grass edge and then matte. Now we don't need, as you can see, we've got the 3D camera tracker effect on it. We don't need that. We're going to delete that. We don't need it on this one or this one. In fact, we've still got it on our ground main, so I'm just going to delete it off there as well, so just to keep things clean. So there are our two layers, and we've got them soloed out. Now we're going to go over to our effects window, so we need to look for our effects. So let's go to Windows, if you haven't got it open already, Effects and Presets, and bring that up, and it comes up over here just in case you had it hidden. Okay, let's open this up, and now we're going to use a Chroma key. Now there's a few different ones. You can type in keying if you want, and a lot of them will come up. But what we want to use is we want to use the key light. Key light 1.2, it comes with After Effects. So we're going to drag this onto our top layer, okay? And I'm going to turn off the bottom layer for now, okay? So what we want to do now is just pick a base color, something to key out. And because we're, the green's very different to the rest of it, we're quite sort of lucky there. Now we want to use set a screen color. So instead of just setting it here, use the eyedropper tool, click on the eyedropper, come over to here and just pick one of these greens. And as you can see, it instantly sort of starts to remove that, and what we've got here is final result. I want to go down to combined matte. There you go. Now what this does is it shows you the levels and the actual matte instead of the final result, and this is what we're going to use as a matte to key out the layer underneath. So now you're going to want to play with these settings, and I really do sort of implore you to go through and try them all. Obviously this isn't a tutorial in keying, it's just the basics, but it'd be really good for you to just go through, maybe do some tutorials and have a real play with it just to get a feel of it. And I'm just going to use some of the settings that I found best for me for this situation. So I'm going to take the screen balance down to about 40. You can see you drag it up and down, you sort of get different, it uses different levels of black. So let's open up now our clip black. So this one's quite important. So if I go down to screen matte, and I'm going to go down to clip black. Now we want to start clipping this black to make it more solid. Okay, so you can drag it up and down, and you can see you get different sort of levels. It's quite patchy as well. So I found for this situation a 28 was quite good, and you can see the graffiti is poking through it, but we're not going to be using that. We are going to be masking this out as well. Okay, so now let's have a little look. So I'm going to go down to clip white. Let's just try this. As you can see, I'm now getting a lot cleaner matte, and I found that something like 90 was probably good, as you get a nice-ish edge here. Okay, so there we go. So that's all I needed to do. So you might want to go through just to get little grips with some of this. You've got screen blur. You can pre-blur the matte as it before it's applied as a matte. So now let me just unsolo the layer that we've just done. So we've got both of them. Okay, so actually let's just solo both of them. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select our layer underneath, which is the grass edging, and we're going to toggle the switches. And over here we want to set a track matte. We're going to use the layer above to mask out our layer underneath, because otherwise it would have been the wrong way around if we applied the effect straight to this layer. So now we go down to track matte, and we're going to go down to Luma matte inverted, and there you go. And now we get our matted edging. Obviously we don't want all this, so we need to do the same process as we did before, where we go through and key it all out. Okay, so this is the basics of it, and you can go through and keep editing this, trimming it, changing the mask, changing the wall feathering to get a better result. And when we mix that with our ground main, let me just turn this on, there you go. You see it fills in all those holes because we're using as much of the original backplate as possible. Okay, so now let me just unsolo the layer underneath. So we've just purely got our grass edging layer, and now let's go through the same as we did before, and let's animate the mask out. So let's draw a mask. So let's go something like, now we don't want any of this, we want just the edge here. So I'm going to set a key here, something like this. I'm just going to really quickly go through this because you already know how to do this. I'm going to do an extra key a point here, and I'm going to just take the edging this time. Okay, we can add more points in if you need it. Okay, I'm going to put one here and one here, and there we go. We've just got our edging. Now let's hit the M key for mask, add a key by hitting the stopwatch, and the same as we did before. Let's go through and see, let's open this up and change the mask path. We animate it, so hit the V key to go back, and now we can just go through and just sort of bring it just above there. And, we can bring this up here as well because we only want the edging. And go through, let's see, let's go right through to something. Let's go all the way over to here. Again, you can unhide the layer underneath if you want to so you can see what you're doing easier, but because we've got it masked out, it's just quite easy just to quickly move it and just find the edge. Up to you, whichever way you want to work. I'm going to move this up to here, something like this, and let's close off the gap here. You might find we need more, when we add the feathering, you might need more distance here, but we'll come to that in a minute. Let's scroll along again, something like here. Take all this down. So as you can see, there's the graffiti, and just by simply adding this mask, we're getting rid of all that. Okay, editing the mask here. That's good enough for there. Scroll through, let's go through to the distance here, sort of further on along the timeline. Bring all this down. I could have probably just selected the whole mask and just brought it all down in one go, but it doesn't take long. So I'm going as close as I can up to the edge. This one's now going to have to move up. Let's move this up again if we want as much as the backplate in as possible. Over to here. Just get that edge in. Let's move this up something like here. Again, we might have to edit this. Take both those keyframes at once. Let's just have a little look as we scroll through. So that's not looking bad. Follow this through. There we go. We definitely need a keyframe in here just to bring back the edge. And let's see if we can get away with less grass here, and just bring this forward. So the camera jumps a lot there. So we're going to need, I'm just going to double click the whole thing, bring this down. Let's just see where it jumps. There you go. We might have to go through and edit the keyframes afterwards, but we'll see what happens. It's because of the shaky camera. As you can see, it drops again there. So sometimes at certain points you do have to go through, and we'll see how we've added quite a few keyframes here. I'll bring this down a little bit here. So you just add in the main blocking poses, the blocking, keyframes, and then go through and just add in sort of in-betweens, just like we do with when we're doing character animation, really. So that's not too bad for now. So now let's add some feathering, and don't forget to keep saving your work, guys. So just Control S or save it as a different name, because After Effects, it does have a tendency to crash, especially mine. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of feathering. I'm going to try and use as little as possible. So I've got 80 here. As you can see, we're losing some here. So you go through again. Oops, go through, open up the mask path here. I hit the M key again. And we might have to just go through and tweak this. So I'm scrolling through. Looks okay there. Okay, so now let's bring back our other layer just to see what it looks like underneath. Okay, so now I've got both layers soloed. I'm using this little solo swatch here again. Okay, now I'm just going to do a quick RAM preview just to see what we've got. And as you can see, it dropped a little bit there, so I definitely need to go in and fix that. But there you go, that's the basics of it there. So now, let's just fix that little bit. You saw it drop as we got to there. We're losing everything there on our grass edge. So the grass edge does need more keyframes than the bit underneath. And you can also rotate as well. You can do something. You can do this. You can rotate your mask as well. So I'm going to, as you can see, we're getting a bit of fading out here. So this is when you might need to give it more volume underneath. And don't forget, we've still got the layer underneath as well, the actual main footage. If I bring this back, we've got all this as well. So that does help fill in holes where we need. There's a little bit of funniness here. I'm going to drop this keyframe down here. And again here, this one needs a bit more actual keyframe moving to get it in. So it's a bit laborious. Oh, it sort of drops there, definitely. Just bring back the edge wherever it disappears. And like I say, you can speed up this bit, but I want to, you know, a lot of videos you see out there, they just sort of, here's one I did earlier, but you know, actually seeing me do it all is, I think it's quite beneficial. Okay, let's do another quick round preview. There we go, it's still dropping a little bit at the front there, and then we've got a bit of gap in here. Okay, so now let's just, we can fix it, keep fixing this up, and keep going as much as you want. Now let's unsolder this and bring it back with the wall. Okay, so now let's do a round preview with our wall. There you go, it's working really well. So now you've got all three together. You know, it's working well. So we've got our main layer underneath, which is the main footage, which is filling in all the holes. If I not this one, if I solder this layer, our original backplate, that's still there. It's not just our edge and our edge ground main. If I unsolo it, we've got everything working together now. So now we've got our walls going behind. You know, we've got the starts of quite a nice edge there. You can see it slip out there. There, I lost a bit of feathering there. So this is how you have to sort of go in. You know, I don't want to keep you too long on this. You can do this yourselves afterwards, but I'm just going to bring back the edge here. There we go. That's nice and much sharper. Again, it doesn't matter about the bit at the back there really, but you will have to go through, ramp preview it, see it all working together. And let's just do another little ramp preview, and there you go. So now we've got all our wall patches in. We've got our grass over the top. Obviously, I'm still disappearing because we need to do the rotoscoping, which we'll do soon. And there you go. So that wasn't too hard to do. So we've got all those different layers of grass building up using the Chroma key, the edge feathering, and animated masks. And when it all comes together, you see it together. Let me just bring this back into the middle. You know, you do get the illusion that this is over the wall. You've got a nice edge here. You might want to go in and refine, get rid of some of that blue, but again, you can also still now go back to your original wall patches, move them around, add extra patches in if you want. I mean, I did want this a bit dirty, and the blue matches my color scheme, so entirely up to you. But there you go, we've got it all starting to work together nicely. We've got no color grading or anything yet, but we've got the basics in. We've got the wall in moving with the grass, and it's starting to take shape. So, in the next lesson, we're going to go over the pretty large task of cutting me or whoever you filmed out in a process called rotoscoping. I'm going to go over two methods, one using the roto brush and two using a built-in plugin called Mocha. Now, if you've learned something from this, I'd really appreciate if you can give it a like, and I'll see you in the next lesson.